Imagine walking into a room and finding a secret book that says you are not allowed to hug your own child. Imagine someone watching your little boy from behind the shadows, writing down every time he cries or asks for his mommy. Catherine thought she was just looking for a missing piece of paper about a schedule. Instead, she opened a private drawer in Camilla's big office at the palace and found something that made her blood run cold. It was a folder full of notes about Prince Louis. These weren't nice notes about how cute he was. They were notes about his private life, his fears, and his secrets. What started as a simple search turned into a mother's worst nightmare. Before we talk more about what this means for the royal family, please subscribe so you never miss a story about the palace. Catherine went into the office because a palace helper told her a paper was missing. It was a schedule for a very big ceremony. At the palace, these ceremonies are like a giant puzzle. Every person has a specific spot to stand, and every move is timed perfectly. If a child is in the wrong place, it could look bad on the news. Catherine knew that even a small mistake could separate parents from their kids in front of the cameras. She thought the cabinet would be locked because Camilla always keeps her papers hidden. But the key was right there, as if someone had left in a huge hurry. Catherine hesitated, then she pulled the drawer open. Deep inside, she found a cream-colored folder. On the front, it said Louis, Behavior, Access, and Future Duties. When Catherine opened the folder, she saw Camilla's handwriting immediately. The notes talked about times when Louis got scared in big crowds or when he didn't want to talk to strangers. Catherine's hands began to shake. These were things that happened behind closed doors, during private times when only family and trusted staff were around. The notes were like a secret report on a 6-year-old boy. The most upsetting part was a page that asked if Louis should be kept away from his mother during royal events. The note said this might make him easier to handle. Catherine read it twice. It didn't sound like someone trying to help. It sounded like someone trying to take control of her son. There were even lists of his school times and the names of helpers who were allowed to take him away without asking Catherine first. At the very back of the folder, Catherine found something that made her heart stop. It was a plan for a controlled test at the next big royal ceremony. The plan was to move Louis away from her and watch how he acted. They wanted to see if he would obey a different royal leader instead of his own mother. Suddenly, Catherine heard someone coming. She didn't hide the papers or close the drawer. She held that folder tight against her chest and turned around. She wasn't scared. She was a mother ready to fight. She needed to find out why Camilla had been spying on her son. This wasn't just about royal rules anymore. This was about a little boy whose trust was being used like a game. Catherine took the folder to William. She watched his face turn from confusion to pure anger. He saw notes about things that happened while Louis was supposed to be safe with staff. William had trusted these workers because they were part of the palace system. Now he saw that the system was being used to spy on his son. He saw the names of 2 workers who were helping Camilla. They were people William had invited into his home. This proved that Camilla wasn't acting alone. Someone was watching Louis, someone was writing the notes, and someone was giving them to Camilla without the parents ever knowing. The most painful part was a sentence written in dark ink. It said, "The mother's presence prevents adjustment." It meant that Catherine being there was seen as a problem. The plan was to take her away so they could try to change who Louis was. William promised Catherine that no one would ever separate her from their son again. He felt a lot of guilt because he was the one who had let these watchers get so close. Then, he remembered something from 6 months ago. Camilla had insisted on moving Louis away from Catherine during a party. William had said okay at the time, but now he realized that was the very first test. That party 6 months ago was where it all started. Louis had been scared because the crowd was loud. He wanted his mom, but he had been moved to a different spot. Afterward, Camilla said that Louis was too dependent on his mother and that it made the family look weak. That one moment of a child being scared was used to start a whole program of watching him. Catherine remembered how Louis had whispered that he was sorry for ruining everything that day. It broke her heart to know that someone had made a 6-year-old feel like he was a failure just for being nervous. Catherine didn't wait for a meeting or call any lawyers. She walked straight into Camilla's private room and shut the door. She put the folder on the table and demanded to know why her son was being studied like a science project. Camilla tried to act like it was just normal palace work. She said every royal child needs to learn how to be tough and not show fear. She argued that the royal family couldn't have a prince who cried or got scared in public, but Catherine wasn't having it. She called it what it was, an experiment on a child without his parents' permission. Camilla finally admitted that the plan was to take Louis away for 40 minutes during the next ceremony to see if he would stop asking for his mom. Catherine told Camilla, "You can talk about the royal family all you want, but you will never experiment on my son." Camilla's confidence started to fade. She told Catherine that she wasn't the only one who signed off on the plan. She said someone higher up had given her the permission. Catherine looked at the bottom of the papers and saw a signature from the king's office. This meant King Charles had signed a paper that let this happen. However, when William went to talk to his father, the king was shocked. Charles had signed a paper about preparing young royals, but he had no idea it was being used to spy on Louis or separate him from Catherine. The king felt terrible. He wanted a strong family, but he never wanted to hurt his grandson. William and Catherine decided to stop the plan right then. There were only 24 hours left before the big ceremony. William walked into the final planning meeting and told everyone the instructions were cancelled. He told the helpers that Louis was not a palace exercise and his feelings were not a failure. He removed Camilla's power over the children's schedules. From now on, any plan for the kids had to be signed by both Catherine and William in writing. The palace workers were silent and ashamed. One of them even admitted that they had practiced telling Louis not to look for his mom, even if he was scared. That night, Catherine and William had a very quiet talk with Louis. They didn't show him the folder, but they asked him if anyone had made him feel bad about wanting his mommy. Louis looked at the floor and said a helper told him that brave princes don't need their moms and that he would embarrass the family if he cried. The poor boy had been carrying this fear all by himself because he didn't want to disappoint his dad. William took his hand and told him that the adults were the ones who were wrong. He told Louis that being brave doesn't mean you aren't scared. It means you are honest about how you feel. Louis also told them that Camilla had come to his practice and promised to give him a prize if he didn't look for Catherine. He remembered a woman standing nearby writing things down every time he asked a question. This was the final proof they needed. The spying was real, and it was happening while Louis was just trying to do his best. Catherine and William promised him that no palace rule would ever come between them again. By the next morning, the whole world knew something was wrong because the palace had to change the ceremony plans, so quickly the news got out. People weren't talking about royal rules, they were talking about a mother protecting her child. The public was very angry when they heard that a little boy was being monitored. They saw Catherine as a hero for standing up for her son. The palace had to put out a special message saying that Catherine and William were now the only ones in charge of their children's lives. Camilla lost all her influence over George, Charlotte, and Louis. She was no longer allowed to see their school notes or their secret schedules. At the ceremony the next day, Louis didn't stand in the spot Camilla had picked for him. He stood right next to Catherine. At one point, he reached out and grabbed her hand, and she held it tight. The whole world saw that moment. It was a sign that the mother had won the battle. Camilla had to watch from a distance, knowing she had lost the trust of her family. The king made a final choice. He took the folder, put it on the table, and told everyone that the crown is not as important as the children. He said that strength built on fear is not real strength. Charles ordered that all the secret notes be burned. He fired the workers who had spied on Louis. He made a new law for the family. No child could be tested or kept from their parents ever again. Camilla had to sign a paper saying she understood the new rules. She gave back the key to the cabinet and left the room. Catherine took the original folder and kept it herself to make sure those notes could never be used again. She knew that no apology could take back the fear her son had felt, but she had made sure it would never happen again. In the end, the royal family had to learn a very big lesson. You can have all the power and all the gold in the world, but nothing is more important than the love between a mother and her child. Catherine showed everyone that she would not let anyone, not even a queen, hurt her son's heart. Louis was finally able to be a normal kid again, knowing his parents were always there to catch him if he fell. The secret drawer was locked once more, but this time, there were no scary plans inside. The only thing left was a family that had decided to put love before duty. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories.